Welcome to Window on the World. I'm your host, Kristen Hanna, and this program focuses on the international mission here at Missouri Southern. A lot of groups of students at Missouri Southern travel, and today in studio we're lucky enough to have professors and students that traveled abroad in Costa Rica. For the first segment of this show, we'll talk to the professors, Mr. Michael Kennedy and Dr. Anna Rinner, about their travels to Costa Rica with the students of the Environmental Health Program. So hi, how are you guys doing today?
Good, how are you?
Great.
Pretty good. So can you just give me a brief description of your guys' trip to Costa Rica and what class that it coupled?
Sure. We're with the Environmental Health Program. This was actually Environmental Health 352 was the course number, and we left Tulsa for Costa Rica on May 11th. And we visited a couple of universities down there. We went to a biology station. We visited a couple of jungles, interacted with the folks down there. The focus of the course was environmental health, climate change. So when we were down there, we talked with the universities about the Costa Rican programs with climate change. We went to one of the university field stations and looked at some of the things they're doing to address or to understand climate change. And then we wrapped it all up and we came back to Joplin on May 26th.
Mm-hmm. So climate change, it sounds like it's self-explanatory, but could you go a little bit more in depth for me, Dr. Rinner, about exactly what climate change is?
Well, I guess our goal for this class was to talk about international environmental health, and so we're focusing kind of on climate change and what impact climate change has on the environment. So we were traveling to different parts and habitats within Costa Rica to see what kind of changes climate change produces in the organisms that live there, the plants, the animals, that kind of thing, and also how that impacts the people that live there. Okay.
It's just an overall evaluation of the increase in the Earth's temperature near surface. You know, we all understand the further you get away from the Earth, the cooler the temperature. But with the changes and you know, without pointing fingers, we look at petroleum consumption. It puts more gases, more carbon dioxide, more methane into the air. And then the more of that's in the air, the warmer the climate gets, and it doesn't take a large increase in temperature to start seeing effect on the ecosystems, the organisms, whether they be animal or plant or whatever we're looking at. So we just went down to see if we could get an understanding of how is it impacting one of the real critical ecosystems with the jungle, the tropical jungles. A lot of real sensitive species.
Yes, so I understand you guys went a couple of different places across Costa Rica, and you guys actually, I think, have a map up so that we can see the different places. So can you explain your guys' journey across the country?
Go ahead.
Well, we flew into San Jose, Costa Rica, because that's kind of their main international airport, and that's kind of located pretty much right in the middle of the country, and that's really the hub of everything there. Majority of people that live in Costa Rica live in and around San Jose. Then we spent some time heading a little bit east of there to Cartago, where they have the technical university that we went and kind of met with some professors and talked about climate change and saw the campus. Then from there we started heading northwest up to La Fortuna, went to Arenal Volcano. From there, you know, this is just kind of briefly going up. Then we headed further northwest up to Santa Clara, which was actually pretty close to the Nicaragua border. Maybe if we would have had time, we would have just jumped over there, got our passport stamped, and come back, but we didn't have time for that. Then we kind of started heading down south to Monteverde, which is up in the mountains in the cloud forest. And then after that, we headed again south, a little east, along the coast, went to Manuel Antonio, great coastal city, had the beach there. I know the students enjoyed that. And then kind of rounded out the trip by heading back up to San Jose and Cartago. And I almost forgot though, we did head north of San Jose to Biological Station with the Organization of Tropical Studies at a place called La Selva, and that's a rainforest at a low altitude. So each one of these places we spent maybe 1 to at the most 3 nights there, so we were traveling a lot. it.
Right, so you guys were gone for 16 days altogether, and you guys saw all of Costa Rica, it sounds like.
A lot, yeah.
Yeah. So how did you guys actually travel to all these different places then?
We had a very cozy little bus. Officially it was a 20-passenger bus. We were lucky to get the 16 of us and then the guide and the driver. We spent a lot of time touring the country on the bus, and it was really amazing because as we were traveling, our guide, as we're going down the highway, would tell us about what we're looking at, in the jungle around us, or the species of birds that are flying around, and we'd see something along the road, and he'd yell at the driver, and we'd stop and all go running back down the road and look at the monkey in the tree, or looking at the macaws, or whatever it was. Gustavo was an amazing guide.
Yeah, it sounds like a beautiful way to travel around and be able to see everything.
And it's one thing that's kind of interesting if someone ever wants to go to Costa Rica. If you MapQuest to get from one place to Costa Rica to another, and it says an hour, maybe plan for 2. It depends on the roads. They're not all great roads, and maybe traffic can be bad, so it usually takes longer. So we had some days that were almost all traveling, but we stopped and tried to look around and get out of the van.
Yeah.
The way we did it, you really get to know your students. We spent a lot of enclosed time with 14 students from different locations, different places, different majors. We had business majors and biology majors, environmental health majors, and you really get to find out a lot about your students. And it really makes a big difference in how you see the student population. They're not just young kids growing up. These are young adults that are developing their whole outlook on life.
Right.
It was amazing.
A trip abroad probably helps for them to kind of mold themselves as well.
I think we saw a lot of change in each one of the students. It was different, different type of growth in them that wasn't all the same thing. It was really, really amazing.
That's so awesome. So I know you guys got some amazing pictures as well. If we could take it to the pictures, that'd be great. Can you tell us what this is here? That's
just one of the hundreds of different orchids that they've got. They grow wild along the road. This happens to actually be one of the lodges we stayed at. So that's just an orchid. This is a view across the volcano area. There's a volcano off into
right in the middle there.
Oh, excuse me.
It's in the middle, way back there. You go.
Just off to Victoria's shoulder there. That's the volcano.
It's beautiful. It's extremely green.
Yes. That's just another view of a mountain on the volcano range. This is a coffee plantation at Monteverde. They're trying to be real organic with it. So he gave us a discussion on how they work at the Monteverde coffee plantation, and we got to drink coffee and walk around the plantation.
Probably really, really good coffee as well.
Yeah, I limit my coffee to Costa Rica. There's another smaller plantation we went to where they're actually drying the coffee beans.
Very interesting.
Okay. Yeah. And then roasting them.
There
they are roasting the beans there then.
This is actually one of the students we took with us was doing her senior thesis for honors, and she was collecting water samples. And so this is if you look in through the trees, you'll see her down there collecting water samples. And then as we went through the trip, she would do the analysis while we're in the hotel. She would do the analysis of the samples, and she collected all of her data, and she's going to present that as a senior honors thesis this semester at Southern.
Which is extremely interesting and a great opportunity.
And all of our students got involved. The environmental health and the international business students, they all got involved in what she was doing and helped her with her data collection and some of the analysis. Here she's looking at, actually she's loading some of the Petri films so that we can grow them in the incubator and check for the bacteria that she's looking for. There's some of the bacteria. Timing is great. There's some of the bacteria growth. The little purple dots on those plates are the bacteria she was looking for. So we found a lot of it.
And what is this here then, Dr. Rinner?
I think that's a white-faced capuchin monkey, or is that the howler monkey?
That's the howler.
Okay, back hanging out on the tree is the howler monkey. I think the next couple of slides there's 4 different, there's a crocodiles that were in one of the
So a lot
rivers
of
there.
wildlife.
Yeah.
A lot of diverse wildlife.
Can you tell me a little bit about the crocodile and how it is affected by climate change?
You know, that's a good question, because we think of crocodiles and we think of how old they are. They've been around for millions of years, and how rugged and they can endure just about anything. They can live in real polluted waters, chemical pollution, dirty water, stuff that humans cannot in any way utilize. But climate change, the increase in the temperature, that really affects the crocodile's survival. My understanding is that the temperature impacts their ability to reproduce. So we're not seeing the young offspring coming from the crocodiles because of the slight raise in the global temperature.
Yeah. They're an organism that the sex of the offspring is determined by the temperature. So, if you have temperature changing, if it keeps increasing, you're going to end up, maybe only having one type of sex of the offspring.
Wow, so that's very much impactful.
Yes.
A lot of interesting information, and I really appreciate you two sitting down with me today and talking about your trip to Costa Rica.
It's been a pleasure.
Yes.
So when we get back, we'll talk to the students, so stay tuned.
Catch complete coverage of Joplin City Council meetings only on KGCS TV, Channel 22, keeping the citizens of the Joplin, Missouri area informed and in the know for the past 30 years. Live at 6 p.m., first and third Mondays of each month, rebroadcast on the first and third Tuesdays of each month. Catch Joplin City Council only on KGCS TV, Channel 22.
Hi, welcome back to Window on the World. Now we're going to sit in with the students that went to Costa Rica. The students are JeTeime Hovis, Liz Pirtle, we have Eli Moran, and Stephen Atkinson. So how are you guys today?
Good. I'm doing well. How are you?
Doing really, really well. So you guys went to Costa Rica, took a really exciting trip. Can you tell me some of your guys' favorite activities when you guys went to Costa Rica?
Definitely spotting out the different animals, and the harder ones, especially like the sloth, because they don't move very fast at all.
Mm-hmm. I really liked, we did a lot of hiking through all different kinds of different forests, and I think that may have been my favorite, at least looking back on it, some of the greater experiences.
Yeah, the reserves are fantastic. Like, you can go out there in the middle of the mountain and just sit there and just, just look at the day and be humbled, I guess. That's pretty much like how I can sum up the experience, is humbling, but also just learning the different cultures and how people, have certain viewpoints on the world as opposed to what America has. It's completely life-changing.
Seeing all the wildlife that they had different compared to us, and they're 10% or 3% of diversity of the world in that little size of Costa Rica. So there's a ton of animals and plants and stuff that we got to see that you normally don't see here.
Mm-hmm. So this was coupled with the class. How do you think that seeing the actual wildlife and seeing the climate change or the effects of the climate change helped to better understand the actual course?
Beats textbooks any day, hands down. Yeah, having a hands-on class and with great professors, that have had this trip planned out for, months, almost up to a year, it's just, you take for granted, people can learn by reading in a book, but when you actually go out there and see it and see the effects yourself, then you can come back and almost be like a testimony, I guess. Mm-hmm. So, it's just like a first-hand experience, real-world experience.
Yes.
Yeah, I think for me, when it really hit home, some of the things that we were learning back here, we went to the coffee plantation. I think you've seen one of the photos. Mm-hmm. And our guide at the coffee plantation, his name was Felix, and he was very passionate about the environment and what he does. And he explained to us that the typical harvest time for coffee is in October, but the past couple of years it's been even further back, in November. Or did I get that backwards? I can't remember.
Yeah, I think it's earlier now.
I think it's earlier. Yeah, it's typically in November, but they've been seeing it earlier in October. So they're seeing it in October now instead of November. So there's definitely been, a month's shift time in the past couple of years. So that's a pretty big difference.
And that has to do with climate change then, mm-hmm. correct? Yeah, okay. So you guys got to see a lot of Costa Rica, it looked like. How was it to see the volcano?
It was definitely eye-opening, and being able to go up that tower and see it from a distance was amazing. It's a great scenery.
Oh yeah, you can go up there and like have the weight of the world on your shoulders and everything just falls off. You know, you can just look around, do a complete 360 and everything is just open.
Yeah, we went to one volcano and it was super cloudy, and we're walking around for like.
Here, then.
Yeah, well, that was the second one we went to. The first one we went to was like super cloudy, like you couldn't see the craters, and then 5 minutes later it was just open and we could finally see them, get good pictures, and it was awesome actually getting to see like the biggest crater that was at that volcano.
Yeah. So, as your professor said, a lot of you guys are from different fields of study. How do you think that this trip helped you to maybe gain more relationships or getting along with people and finding new friends here at Missouri Southern?
In many career sceneries, you tend to work with people that you like and some that you may not like. Well, you learn to cope with that, and you're able to adjust and not necessarily reveal to everybody, hey, I don't like this person, but it gets along smoothly in the end.
But I mean, yeah, it pretty much sums up like there's all kinds of aspects. I mean, we had pre-med majors and we had business majors and biology majors, like Mr. Kennedy said before. And like when you go to a coffee plantation that distributes all around the world, that's international business. Then when you have, you know, conservation, like I'm a conservation emphasis. So like when we go out in these biological stations, do research on, you know, birds, crocodiles and stuff like that, that, you know, hits it home for us. And then like you have the pre-med majors that can learn, you know, like what medicinal uses that the animals have that, you know, can bring back to the people and civilization. You know, everybody gets in together. It's like a big bond.
Yes. So we're talking about the environmental aspect. Can you talk a little bit more to me about the cultural aspect and the cultural differences in Costa Rica?
I felt like, oh, sorry.
They're super laid back because, I mean, you don't make much money. And so, like, here in America, we're working for money. We're working to have a better life. Down there, they're down there to live. Like, they're down there enjoying life. Business may say it opens at 7, it may open at 9 just because they're enjoying life. Like, they're all super laid back.
Right, and usually in the States, if that happened, there'd be numerous complaints. But I think there was a saying that you guys kind of heard and were able to use while there that talks about pure life. Can you tell me that saying and what it means to all of you guys?
It's Pura Vida, pure life. I read somewhere that it also means to them in Costa Rica it could be worse, and so that's kind of my take on it. I've got some things going on in my life that sometimes get me down, and when I was down there and just kind of getting into their culture, it just really stuck with me, that saying, and so that's something that I took back with me, like, you know, this thing that I'm going through may not be the best, but it definitely could be a lot worse, so Pura Vida.
Yeah, and you guys literally took this back with you guys, right?
Yeah.
Eli, do you have a little souvenir?
Yeah, I got a tattoo while I was down there. There was 7 of us that got them, and it was pretty amazing. We're all tattoo, you know, like buddies for life. But it was just, this is one of the first animals that we got to see and like got to hold, and it's the red-eyed gaudy tree frog. And it was just, you know, fantastic to have like something that wild, like right up in your face, and it was just so beautiful. Like this tattoo doesn't do it justice. And just having like the researchers and stuff, you know, just explain all about it. It's just laid back, just like they were. You know, it's simple, just Pura Vida.
And it looks like we have the picture that will do it some justice.
Yep.
So you said this is a
red-eyed gaudy tree frog.
Okay.
Yep, that's the one. Actually, that was the inspiring picture right there.
And did you guys see a lot of these then when you guys were there?
We seen a couple of them, but they were, I mean, just few and far between. So when you got to see them, it was kind of like a breathtaking experience.
Wow. Yeah, it's beautiful. And can you tell me what this is?
That was one of like it was like a warbling spider, like something that it creates like this huge spider web, and I can't remember what Gustavo, how he was talking about it, but it's like the spider that's like this big. And it's this beautiful gold color, and that, he'd never seen one like that before actually. So it was a pretty rare occasion but he knew all about it, and like he could name it down to the species.
It looks like this is some food that you guys were able to try. What was the food like there?
Well, that was their main dish that they're known for. I want to say it was a casado. Is that what they called it?
Yeah, I believe so. But yeah, that's like the traditional dish, and their food is amazing down there.
Yeah.
It's all natural. It's like healthy, which is whatever.
It's not spicy.
Yeah. I was gonna ask.
It was pretty bland.
Yeah.
I felt like, I mean, it was good, but it wasn't. You think you go down into Central America and it's going to be spicy, and it It wasn't.
So it was light and fresh, you said?
Yeah.
Really fresh. Okay, so what is this? It looks like you guys are holding maybe a crocodile?
This is Oliver, and he is holding one of the little juvenile crocodiles. That one's about 5 years old, and he was explaining about their reproduction and stuff like that. And that's all of us wrangling the crocodiles.
And this next picture, it looks like an insect.
That's the butterfly farm.
Yeah.
We got to go to an area in that little reservation that had a ton of butterflies.
It's great. Is this? Can you tell me what this picture is as well?
Which one is that? It's hard to see.
Walking stick, is that what it was?
Oh,
Okay, it might have been the
a
walking
walking
stick.
stick.
Yeah, it
I'm
is.
sure it's just maybe too small to make out completely.
It's a really
but-
big walking stick, but for
That's a sloth.
Is that one of the
Yes.
sloths?
Is that a sloth then
Yeah.
that you
Yes.
guys were able to see?
At the Organization of Tropical Studies.
Okay. Do these live naturally in the wild there?
Yes.
Then?
Yeah, even
That's
on some of the campuses, you'd see them in the trees.
Okay.
It
which
was,
is
it was
very
pretty cool.
interesting.
Our guide, well, I guess he wasn't with us at that point, but there was someone out there that had a big scope where you could like really zoom in and get a good visual, and this sloth guy was smiling at us.
Oh my goodness.
At least that's what it looked like.
What if we had those hanging on the trees on campus here?
It'd be awesome. It'd be awesome.
So we've talked a lot about the environmental part of your guys' trip. Can you tell me a little bit more about kind of the people there and the language that they speak?
Majority speak Spanish that we ran across,
Mm-hmm.
and they were usually pretty good at catching on to the English and possibly even teaching us a couple Spanish words.
Yes.
I felt like almost everybody that I met that wasn't our guide could communicate with us pretty well, which I felt like was really speaking well upon the Costa Rican culture. I believe their literacy rate is 95%, and I think from what I gathered, they really encourage them to learn English. And so like we went to the mall in San Jose one day, and the group that I was with, we communicated really well with this girl who had learned English, and she wanted to know things like, how do you say this? And it was like a curtain. And so it was just really cool. They were so eager to learn, and I think that that's one thing that I noticed a big difference is they're very interested in life, and they want to learn a lot, and so that was pretty cool to see up close.
Mm-hmm. So you say you went to a mall in San Jose. What were the different varying places? Were you in rural areas and kind of urban areas, Eli? What was it like?
Well, we would go, we'd be at the top of a mountain. We'd be like 5,000 feet up, and we'd just look over like this landscape of just, like there'd be like an ocean, and there'd just be hills and like you could see farmers in the distance, on these like 45-degree angled hills. And then like we'd go in the city, and it's, shoulder to shoulder, all kinds of traffic, everybody drives a stick shift down there.
Okay.
And it's just awesome. People always on the bus, taking the bus and the mall and everything like that. So it's like, it's kind of like home, but it's just, you could drive an hour and just, be from like packed urban city to, rural country where there's no internet, there's, no phones, no nothing, just old oxen cart, I guess.
So how was it? Did you guys use a lot of your cell phones or Facebooks or any kind of electronics technology?
Only when we had Wi-Fi at certain hotels, but most of the time we're just out in the wilderness enjoying the nature and just us with our classmates.
Yeah,
So how was that as a change? Oh,
sorry, I was just going to say the further we got from San Jose, the worse the Wi-Fi was. Like maybe they'd have it in the lobby, but
Not in the rooms.
not in the rooms.
how was that as a change up, being such a generation that is using our phones and using technology all the time usually?
It was much needed. Definitely sets like your body clock back, I guess, so to speak. Not having to worry about, what's going on back at home, and not having to worry about what somebody's saying about the other person. Everybody just hung out. Like the 14 of us and like the professors, we got really close, so we didn't really need our phones. We'd sit there and just have conversation about like the real world, and like professors helping us, talk about getting jobs and going to grad school, and then we'd just, anything like playing cards, just talking.
Nice. So actual socializing
Mm-hmm.
and not this electronic socializing. And it looks like there's a group photo of you guys right there.
Yeah, we were at the Tree of Life is what they called it. The tree's over 400 years old. And our tour guide at the time said those trees don't get more than like 130 years old. So that's why they referred to it as the Tree of Life.
Wow.
And it was able to withstand a couple of eruptions by the volcano that we were touring up to. So.
Wow. And this looks like you guys are by a waterfall.
Yeah, it's a little misleading because you have about 600 steps to go down and up, but it was worth it.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that waterfall is about 300 foot tall, and we had to take 550 steps to get down there, and then 550 steps right back up.
Oh my goodness.
But we got to swim at the bottom of it for a little while,
Oh,
so
yeah.
That's fantastic.
while it rained on us, but that's another story.
Did it rain a lot there then?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, it just started their rainy season. And like their rainy season, they'd get on average 12 to 15 feet within their 3-month rainy season.
Wow, that is
So.
a lot. So on this trip, what do you guys think that you learned a little bit more about yourself?
I'm not sugar. I don't melt in rain.
I would have to say that, like, you know, no matter what, you know, like what Liz was saying earlier, no matter what happens, you know, there's always somebody that's going to have it worse. So you got to, like, seize the day, I guess. You know, carpe diem, like, you never know what kind of opportunities you're going to get. You never know if you're going to wake up tomorrow. Like, you just have to take life by the horns and you have to get after it because nobody else is going to do it.
What about for you, Liz?
I think I learned, similar to what Eli just said, just to take life not as seriously as I did before the trip, and kind of got a really good view on some things that I'd like to pursue in the future career-wise, so it was good.
A lot of things are taken for granted that we have always grown up with. One of the major things that we had to adjust to there was throwing your toilet paper in the trash can. Their sewer system, their treatment is not as thorough as ours, and they don't have the money exactly to put towards that. So we all had to adjust to that, and you always heard the, oops, I forgot to put it in the toilet, or the trash can, and you put it in the toilet instead. So.
Oh goodness, so very different then. What are some like tips you would give to somebody that wants to study abroad but doesn't know if they want to go abroad on a trip?
Do it.
Yeah.
Make it work. I mean, I didn't think that I'd be able to do it mostly because of the finances, and it was pretty easy. And it's something that you may never get the opportunity to do, you know, once you graduate and you have a real job and maybe a family and just a lot of commitments. You're in school, it's cheaper because, you know, it's a student trip, and so take the opportunity.
We were also given a $750 grant from the International Abroad program. Some people didn't, but it depends on if you have the requirements and you fulfill them. So.
But I would say, like, learn the language. Like, wherever you're going to go, like, learn the language, even if it's little catchphrases. That's what the professors, you know, like, learn how to say, like, where's the toilet and stuff. Like, donde está el baño? Like, where's the toilet? You know, that's serious stuff, but definitely learn the language.
Yeah, to be more acclimated. Well, thank you guys so much. It sounded like a brilliant trip, and I really appreciate you guys coming in and talking to us a little bit more about it.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Yeah. Well, that will wrap it up for us today. Stay tuned for more Window on the World.